Gajin, come here. We're gonna talk about LS swaps. Get your ass over here. I can't even get him. He's Japanese and he's going, why aren't you guys using JZs and RBs? We talk about V8 American LS. So I wanted to do a little different format of the video. I've had a lot of experience with the LS swap, and that's what we run in our pro car, and a lot of you guys ask, why would you LS swap at R34? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? Other people love it. All of us have heard of an LS swap, but what's the deal? Why is it so popular? Why did people start engine swapping in the first place? Why did the LS become kind of the engine of choice with drifting? We're gonna talk about all that after we go a little history of the LS engine and kind of talk about, where does it even come from? So LS motor is made by GM, General Motors. They came out with it in 1995 is when they introduced it. It was for like rear-wheel drive cars. Biggest example is like the Corvette. So that had the LS1 in it, and then they went on to make LS3, LS7, I think there's the LS9, there's LSX, LSA, all these different crazy ones. There's also the LT series, which is kind of like the truck series, and it's basically, it's a pushrod V8, it's single cam, so there's one cam right in the middle, and then you have the two heads. So it's not like a Ford Mustang motor, like a 5.0, a new one, is dual overhead cam, so you have two cams in each head basically, whereas the LS is just a single cam right in the block. So it's a really simple design. It's really small. The heads are small because they don't have all these valves like a Mustang motor would have. And so it can literally fit in anything. It makes great power. They made it to actually get pretty decent gas mileage. And so it really started becoming this popular motor that people were using, and they were swapping it in everything you can imagine. People were taking Corvettes, which already had LSs in them. They're taking Mustangs, putting LSs in them. I mean, people would put them in Jeeps. Like anything you can imagine has gotten an LS swap. And I think it really, from what I've seen, is it really gained its popularity in like hot rodding and drag racing, because it was just, you could throw a bunch of boost at it. So there's all these variations of the LS motor, and they're all pretty interchangeable, like heads, blocks, all that stuff. One of the cool things is LSs are aluminum, so they're actually really lightweight. But you can get iron blocks, which like stock. I watched a video like a year or two back where they took, it was like the 4.8 or 5.3, and they just got like a huge Chinese turbo, threw it on. It was like a $300 turbo or something ridiculous, and they did like 60 dyno pulls up north of like 1,200 horsepower, and I think their peak was like maybe almost like 1,400 or 1,500. So it's, that is absurd. A JZ won't even go that high. RB, obviously not. SR, no way. Because it gained popularity in drag racing, circuit racing, just as street cars, everything imaginable. Now you have all these different companies. You have Holley, Comp, Edelbrock, all these groups that were making parts for the Chevy small block. They started making all these parts for the LS. With the surplus of parts, surplus of engines, everything starts getting really cheap, and it's really easy to... Gajin is just like biting my feet as we're filming this video. Gajin's Japanese chin, for those who don't know. He's pissed for talking about LS swaps. He's not a fan of your generic LS swap, okay? He's like, I want turbo noises, I want cool flames, all sorts of stuff. So that is one thing you can do. You can throw boost out of LS. The cool thing is, like I was saying, you can throw a big ass turbo on it, supercharger, stock motor, and easily make 800-900. The thing is though, when you want to get really reliable and be throwing that kind of power out for drifting, you really need to build the motor. Upgrading the heads, maybe sleeving the block, forged rotating assembly. But what's cool is, if you're in the US, there's plenty of tuners and plenty of parts available, and it's easy to do these things. So why do people swap their engines in the first place, right? Maybe they get, for me, let's take my experience for example. I had a Genesis Coupe, it had the 2-liter 4-cylinder in it, and I was blowing up the transmissions over and over again, and then I ended up blowing up the motor. I actually wanted like a better solution for the transmission, and I knew that the T56 was always a great option, and they're at... God, dude, I'm gonna have to kick you out. So for the Genesis, I was actually after the transmission, and I was like, let's do an LS swap. I know I can get a T56. I can eventually go with like a G-Force if I were to start racing it. God, should we just put him out here? So drifting really gained its popularity in Japan, as we all know. I don't know if it was actually invented in Japan, that's my understanding. But after doing some more research, some say that there was like In England, actually, there was guys that were doing it even a little bit before Japan. But it really gained its popularity there, and it gained its popularity using the S chassis or the A86. Basically, these 4-cylinder motors, JZs and RBs, 6-cylinder motors, all turbo motors. They didn't really have a V8 that was as popular as the LS. So when drifting kind of started gaining popularity in America, we didn't have the tuning and the parts available for these turbo motors that were being used in Japan. It's a different story today, but that's kind of my belief as to why the LS got so popular. People were like, well, we're building the race car, we can get a 240, we had those in the US, and let's just put in a proven drag racing motor, proven circuit racing motor, and just not even worry about it. As time went on, I think it really kind of held its own with all these newer motors, because to build them, they're not necessarily any cheaper than an RB or a JZ. That is a myth. Like building a fully built race motor, no matter what, you're like 30, 40 grand. And any of those, RB, JZ, SR, LS, they're all gonna be in that same price range. But they are just so dang reliable. For example, like my pro car, R34, has a CBM Motorsports 4-liter Whipple supercharged 425 cubic inch LS. And it just does it absolutely no problem, time and time again. And I know going into a race, it's gonna work. Which brings us to the last point, you know, should you LS swap your car? If you're building a car completely from scratch and you wanna go 500-600 horsepower, then maybe LS is a good option, but there's still JZs and RBs, so then it's kind of which one do you want to go? I don't think one is necessarily cheaper than the other. I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope this kind of helps you guys learn a little bit more about LS swaps, why people do them, and this is just my opinion again. So comment below what you guys think. You guys think, what was I right on? What do you think I was wrong on? What's your experience with LSs? You like the way they sound? Let us know below, and hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and we'll see you guys in a couple days. Peace.